particularly with my time and stuff I do. But I still want to do this, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So here we have Jose Chavarria. Did I say your last name right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. I usually jack up people's names.
I heard it all, man. Like some military life.
Yeah.
You hear everything.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, I used to. Yeah, you can bring it a little closer to your mouth. Yeah, you can. You don't, yeah, wherever you're comfortable at.
Yeah. Now you go.
Yeah, because I had another guest the other night. Well, it was my brother, and he had it far away when I was doing the audio.
Oh, you can barely hear him.
Yeah, I could barely hear him on some of the stuff. Anyways, so yeah, I would. I used to have to, like when I would make phone calls, like, hey, this is Sergeant. I started having to say Garcia because Garcia. They were like, excuse me, can you spell that? I was like, fuck. I got tired of doing that, so I got in the habit. So now I do it now, and I call, and they're like, they give me attitude, you know, like
damn.
people like, you know, like, oh, do you mean Garcia? I'm like, ooh, ching, like I can't win.
Even with my first name, Jose. Right?
Yeah,
it's typical here, but most people say Jose.
Got you.
And it's not a problem, but it's it's funny to me because it's like they say it, I guess how they just hear, like America, but
right.
Even when people call me Jose, they're like, oh, is it Jose or Jose?
Right.
Like, it's whatever. Like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna argue with you about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where you have to go with it. It's like some people care, some people don't. And when I first kind of got in, I kind of had that upbringing, like don't forget where you come from, and yada yada. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, it's like you got to pick your battles. You know what I mean? Right. You're not gonna change a whole culture. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Over a name, but. Either way, yeah. So we've been talking about coming on. So Jose, I met him a little over a year ago.
Yes.
He's my realtor.
Yes.
And he helped me buy this home we're in now, this beautiful home, and it's more than we were looking for. Right. But at the same time, the way things have worked out, I'm glad that we're in the place we're in, and then with the way the market's going. So I thought I'd bring him on. He also specializes in getting homes for veterans, which I am. He helped me through that process. And one of the things I wanted to have him on was to talk about the process and how it's changed or how it stayed the same and like what the benefits are for veterans within Texas, San Antonio more specifically. So yeah, thanks for coming on. And we'll probably get into some other stuff too. So welcome again for those listening in. Yeah, man. So how you been?
Been good. Just trying to adapt to this shift in the market. It's been great last couple of years, with just volume and the amount of buyers out there, right? Mm-hmm. And that's always kind of what I've been. I've been a buyer's agent. So
Got you.
I focus. A lot of newer agents, when they start off, they just focus on buyers, and then they kind of take off and say, all right, do I want to work more with sellers or buyers? I've been more of a buyer person, agent. So it's been easier for me because I like to have conversations with people, build relationships, and I've grown into like the seller market because that's what it calls for right now.
Right.
So I've had to kind of like grow out of my shell, right, as a realtor, and but again, it's just been a shift and just having to adapt because there's a lot of buyers out there, but I mean you're talking about over 10 offers, per house,
right,
and the ones that end up winning are people that overpay by a lot with cash or like, huge down payments. And it's just, it feels unfair. I'm not saying those people don't deserve it, but it just feels unfair for, the kind of buyers that I've had in the past, what I mean? It just feels like we're outpriced now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of like one thing that we noticed last year when I don't want to say, cause I think the market was already taken off by the time we started buying.
Right.
And like the market increased. For the homes, and that was because of a lot of things around the United States. But more specifically, when we purchased the home, there was some places that we put bids on, and they were just like gone like that because people paid cash, you know. And unfortunately, we weren't in the position to do so. And I kind of foresee it. I saw it at the time. I was like, man, well, luckily, I don't know, we had some wiggle room in what we were looking for with what we were quoted at as far as price and what have you. So we were able to kind of move north of that figure. But a lot of people that are not able to, especially some veterans on fixed incomes, they're not able to do that. So I can see that being a problem more specifically now, people retiring or people, getting out of the military or what have you. And not just military people, but also other people in general. So luckily we kind of squeezed in. I know when we saw this house and then it was just like, hey man, it's a good price. You should take it. Yeah. And I was just deferring to you. You're the expert. So luckily we squeezed in. And then after that, it was just like there was another, I don't want to say stoppage, but another low in the contracting part because of materials, like getting stuck on ships and all kinds of shit. Yeah. I saw like houses around here that were being built and they just stopped for like months. Right. And then they picked up again when they got the materials. So how has the market shifted since then?
So besides interest rates, home prices have been, I think home prices were obviously the first shock, right, into the market. With so much demand, especially with the builder side, prices just they didn't stop. They just every week, these builders would have price increases, $2,000, $5,000, and to the point where back then, you saw there was a bunch of lots available, right?
Right.
So at any time, you could have pulled up to the model home, talked to the sales rep, and said, "Hey, I'm looking to buy. What do you guys have? Obviously they go through their pre-approval process, but all right, we have 10 lots. Let's go out and see them. Pick which one you like."
Right.
What a privilege like that was. It was a luxury.
Right.
So shortly after, all this demand just kind of spiked out of nowhere, people weren't able to pick their lots. They were put on a list. It was a waiting list. So you would show up and just say, "Hey, I want to buy a house." All right, well, we'll have 10 lots available coming up in about, let's just say 30 days, the next 30 days. All right, would you like to be on the waiting list? Yes. They pull up the waiting list and there's like 50 names. So, it'd be luck. And they start from the top. So as soon as the lots open up, they call from the first people working themselves down. And that's how they, get those lots. But a lot of people don't wait. So, it could get to you if those people already bought somewhere else.
Right.
But that was the first thing. It was just so much demand. And then at the same time, like, let's just say you went in there and 30 days ago, you put your name on the list. They call you up. "Hey, are you still interested?" "Yes, I am." "Cool, come in." You go in. That house is $20,000 more.
Shit.
So that was the first thing, Then you have the Fed trying to fight inflation. So this year, we've seen, interest rates go up dramatically. And I thought it was kind of bad how fast they were doing it. But again, they're trying to stay aggressive.
Yeah, they're trying to offset so there's not a housing market crash, I would assume. Well,
I think that's what they're trying to avoid.
When you say, like, how much have they increased? Like, how many points?
So
how many?
right now, let's just say the last couple of weeks, I think so. They kind of went down a little bit, not a full point, but I'd say like probably like over half a point that they've gone down. But shoot, I had a pre-approval. It was her name was Veronica. She had a 6.25 was her quote.
Wow,
a 6.25.
Damn. So if we would have, that's significantly different from what we were quoted at a year ago. That's more than double.
More
I
than
think.
double.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I have a 2.25 on my house.
Yeah,
and that was I paid probably like $1,000.
And you bought like just after we did, right?
Yeah, I think it was
or just before. It was like one of the two.
Yeah, I think it was almost at the same time. Maybe a couple months after. It was a couple months after. And that house that I got, it came back in the market. But besides the house that I liked, the area and everything, I was focused on that interest rate that was available. That lender said, "Hey, you can get a 2.25, to $1,000 discount points," what they call it. I'm like, "All right, cool, y'all do it." And so now, my very first mortgage payment that I made, how you get your statements,
right?
I saw that a couple dollars, like $2 or $3, was already more on principal than it was on interest. Because that's such a low rate.
Right.
People wait years for that, for them to see more on principal than interest. So, like I said, now it's that same house with like a 5%, 6% interest rate, I mean, you're talking about $300-$400 more a month.
Damn. And then you factor in, I mean, depending on the veteran's disability rating, like you factor in taxes and everything else, and then just owning a home is like the maintenance of it and like the warranty fees and all that stuff. I'm not trying to discourage people from buying a home, but I'm just trying to be transparent with all the things you need to consider when purchasing a home. And if I'm being honest, I didn't factor a lot of those things in.
And that's the that's my main focus right now. Is if I get a new buyer, right? I have to be fully transparent and let him know the type of market that we're in, and because I'm here not only to save them time, but I got to save myself time too. You know, if they don't have their their finances all together, I don't think it's fair for me to go out and start showing houses when, with the type of market that we're in. You know, we're going up against people who not necessarily have a lot of money, but just enough money to cover closing costs and, offer, I don't know, 1% deposits. Mm-hmm. So if this house is $300,000, you're putting a $3,000 deposit, Right. And so I talk to my buyers and I let them know, if you don't have this, I really advise you that you get that, however long it takes, because you're not going to win. For me to try to tell you that you are, I'd be lying to you. Right. Because I've seen it and I'm still seeing it. So again, it's just being fully transparent. I think that's the best thing that I can do for my buyers, is just keep it real, because again, I'm not trying to turn wheels out there for no reason, for anybody. Right. Especially with the way gas prices are right now.
Especially like driving. Some of the homes that we want to go look at, we started out with like a piece of the pie of the city where we want it, and then that thing like just had to blow all up around the city to figure out where it was, or like to find the house that we were looking for, I guess. But a lot of that, was driving to all these locations around the city and meeting us, and which I still appreciate. But yeah, so you got to factor in all those things, time. So if a veteran were to come in today and be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, yada, yada. Like, if you can kind of give us a quick and dirty of like what the highlights are, the paper process, not paper process, but what applications, because it seemed like pretty streamlined for me, because it seemed like you and your team that you work with took care of a lot of the paperwork. I mean, it was hectic on my end, financially, and then the uncertainty of everything, and then just, I don't know. But so have there been any laws that have changed since I purchased a home? And if there hasn't, like, if you can just kind of, like I said, quick and dirty, like of what the process is.
Yeah. So very first thing is always going to get pre-approved. You need to get with a good lender. I mean, whether you're VA, non-VA, get with a good lender that's in your best interest and is going to point you in the right direction. What I mean by that is, you have a lot of first-time homebuyer programs out there, not necessarily down payment assistance, because those are basically, right now, from what I've heard, they're non-existent. And if they do come back, they have the highest interest rates right now. So again, that's why I was advising people actually get their own closing costs, so we don't go those routes. Right. So like if you're a veteran, you should be pushed to use your VA loan. And believe it or not, there's lenders that will push veterans to use other programs because the lender will make more money. So it's pretty weird, but
that's kind of jacked up.
It is. It really is. So again, use a good lender, and just you need. I would say meet face to face. You can do online applications, but I think as a first time homebuyer, you gain more experience, more knowledge about the process when you actually sit down with a lender face to face, and just ask as many questions as you can. So with the lender that I use, Align Mortgage, they require a 580 minimum credit score right now. Mm-hmm. So I'd say 580. If you don't have a 580 minimum for VA, start working on your credit repairman, pay down debts, pay down credit cards, open secure credit card lines, just to name a few. If you're a non-VA, I think it's about a 620 is for FHA. So once you go through that process, they'll check your income. So they need to verify. So you're going to submit pay stubs, W-2s, at least be employed for the last 2 years with no gap. You can have a gap, but just at least file your taxes. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to ask for the last 2 months of bank statements. So once you turn in those, it's like they're verifying assets, income, and they'll let you know like what your ratios look like, and that's how you learn, or they tell you how much you qualify for.
Yeah, and like during the buying process, don't buy anything expensive or don't put anything on credit cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah, if you can hold back from purchasing a vehicle, before you buy a house, just hold off, because you can always get the vehicle after the house.
Right.
But it's harder to get the house that you want when you just bought a brand new vehicle. Now you're taking on whatever the payment is, that monthly payment. 'Cause typically they're high, especially now with the way even vehicle prices are. So your debt to income gets rocked a little bit harder when you buy the vehicle first instead of the house first.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that made me like want to purchase a home, because I was kind of not really sure I was ready to purchase yet. We kind of had this conversation, but one of the things I looked at was because we were renting a house for the first 3 years after retiring, and when I looked at the market to either find another home to rent, at least rent wise or mortgage wise, I mean they're kind of the same. Like you're making that payment to somebody, but it increased a couple hundred at that time. So that's why it kind of pushed me in. Was, might as well buy. If we're going to be renting, we're going to be paying like it's almost cheaper. At least the monthly payment would be cheaper if we were to buy a home.
Yes,
and then plus you're investing in yourself, and like all the reasons for that. So with that, I would imagine, I haven't looked at the rental market right now, but is that increasing as well?
Yes. So I just got a client yesterday. Hits me up. He's 100% disabled, right? Mm-hmm. Now, granted, he's new here to San Antonio. He's been here for probably a little bit over a year. So he was just kind of testing the waters first. And he hits me up. He's like, hey, we just got a notice, that if we want to stay in the same rental property that we're at right now to renew, right? It's another $350.
What?
On top of what they were currently paying. Now,
I was thinking like 100 or something, but
yeah. So I don't know what they were paying before. Actually, I think that with the increase, they were going to be basically right at $2,000 a month. Wow. So they must have. I mean, it's probably a decent property, but still, that's. I was like, bro, you're 100% disabled. Yeah. That's a pretty nice mortgage payment for a decent house, for a nice house.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Damn. And if I don't know, you don't have to get into his personal stuff, but if he's on a fixed income, that's your benefits don't increase. Yeah, they account for inflation every year, but not at the rate that it is. Right. Actually, before you showed up, I was watching that report. I think it was like Vice News or something. They were looking at New York City. Granted, I mean, that's an expensive place, but the same thing was happening there. They were taking like houses, or I don't want to say low income houses, but it was when they first built this building or this complex, it was for moderately like fixed income, like people that are not doing like horrible, but they're not doing great. Right. And it was supposed to be like stay within that range. And the tenants of these places were on fixed incomes. A lot of them, they were older, and they were increasing their rent by like 20%. And like in 1 year, and it just keeps increasing. Same thing in Michigan, and like manufactured homes, they were doing that, like raising the rent even, and it was just, I really wish that there was some type of I don't know, like either the state or somebody that kind of put some type of, because it doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? I mean, it makes sense like in the sense of like your greed to make more money off of people, because I'm pretty sure some people are gaming the system, and they're like, hey, we can make more money, this is the time to do it, yada yada. But at the same time, at what cost? You're gonna like increase, I don't want to say that not all homeless people are like, but there's people that are actually trying to, I mean, homeless thing is a very complex issue, and I don't even want to get into that, but you're possibly pushing more people into that are working and trying to make ends meet for their family and what have you, and push them out in the streets just because you're trying to make more money off of somebody. You know what I mean? So
I have like a two-sided story, I guess, on that. I do agree with that. There's greed has always been around, right? But I also believe that a big factor of why rents are going up is for the same reason that everything else is going up. So property values went up, so property taxes went up. So for these big complexes or any kind of rental property, any landlord, they need that, they fill in that gap. 'Cause
Right.
at the end of this year, their property taxes are going to be significantly higher than last year's. And the whole point of being a landlord is for you not to pay any of that.
Got you.
The expenses come from the tenants. So the increase could, come from, them just trying to cover that, or just any other expense. Maybe land, how do you call it? Not landlord fees, but the fees for property management from a realty company. If that's what they have, maybe those went up a small fraction. So again, the whole point is that they're not supposed to pay for anything.
Got you.
It comes from the tenant, or
So-
else it kind of defeats the purpose, I think.
So that means that they're trying to offset the costs at which they're being incurred by the state, the city, or whatever property taxes, and yeah, it's just like a domino effect. I could see that too.
Exactly, it's a two-sided view on my end. Just
Right.
I do believe that people are greedy out there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're not, but at the same time, saying, I say this from my personal experience because
Right.
I have a rental property, and I had to go up about $200.
Damn.
But that wasn't for me trying to be greedy because I'm actually breaking even
Right.
at this point. Which because the guy that I have renting, he's a good friend of mine. So I called him up and I had to just be real with him. Like, hey,
Yeah.
look, this is what it went up. The property values. I'm not even looking to sell, but if I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna have to go up on the rent $200.
Right.
And the reason is X, Y, and Z, and he understood, and he committed. So he's just kind of grateful that I let him know versus just kind of like
Right.
sending him a text. Just, nah, I got him on the phone. I let him know. I broke it down for
Yeah.
him. And I just I mean, he didn't have to stay, but again, I just had to be.
Yeah, and I think that's I mean that's why we have these conversations. You know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily like in the sense of being judgmental, but it's like limited perspective.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we have a conversation with somebody that has a rental property, which I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to kind of shed light into that,
Yes.
that different world. But yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and like you said, greed has been around for a long time, and there are people like so. Kind of going back to it, like one of the one thing that, again, perspective is a lot of it, but there is a lot of greed in Wall Street.
Yeah.
And that's how they make all this money and wealth, establish wealth, and we can go back to history or what have you. But that's one of the things I've been seeing over the past couple years, at least. It was I don't want to say it's corporation organization, but BlackRock is a corporation from like people from Wall Street. They're going up and buying like rental properties. I saw that millennials are now having to. Well, the millennial generation is having to like combine incomes and then like get properties together to move in together, which would be strange just because I get it. I understand it from a financial standpoint, but at the same time, like, what it's like, in the military, we kind of have a good taste of it, like living with other people, especially when you throw in other couples.
Right.
I'm not saying that they're all couples, but if they are, they have families, you have that. Or people, you know what I mean? You're going to have conflicts of relationships in it.
Right.
But yeah, that's what they're having to do because black organizations such as BlackRock, there's one other one too. Like some of these organizations, like I forgot what the other one's called. Maybe BlackRock. I don't know if that one's Wall Street, but there's another one that's like China. And they're coming in and buying a rental property, which is fucking bananas to me that another country can, come in and buy properties. Because I'm pretty sure you can't buy properties in China without the Chinese government approving of it.
I'm not too sure on that, but I do know that they are buying here.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I only know this because of the mortgage company that I've partnered with. They preach on that, especially for veterans. If you've served this country, you've worn the cloth of this nation, you should own property. That's their whole, purpose is for them to just push out information to veterans. Like for instance, the 100% disabled vet that I just got, he should own property here because other countries are coming in here and buying.
Yeah.
So VA, like vet, especially here, Military City, USA, they, we need to be top in the country at least to uphold that name, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, it's not like that.
Yeah, because I mean, essentially, what's happening, and whether people realize it or not, and it's not conspiracy theory at all. But if you are, I mean, there's been a plan in place. I think I was listening to a podcast. It was like Joe Rogan or something, and it was Mike Baker, who was an ex-CIA guy. He was talking about And this makes sense too because of another book. It was called Tequila Junction that I was reading about. It's called It's about fourth generation warfare, where China's been going into like South America, Africa, putting in telecom systems, and with the idea in mind, like, hey, this is good faith. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing this because we care about whatever it is, the narrative that they're pushing. But now, I saw this in Africa. There was one airport they purchased where they built in Senegal, or either way, it's some country in Africa, and they pretty much took it back, and they're like charging. They were like, "Hey, you owe us. You owe us for this airport."
Yeah.
So if you take that what is it called? What do they call it in school? Case. Either way, if you take this example and you apply it to like property here, I can see that because they don't care. Like if they want to kind of make a lot more people homeless, they just don't have to rent out the property, or they send it to like Chinese citizens or what, or like keep it for them, and they kind of monopolize the land here. Because they have a plan to be the world like superpower by 2045 or something like that. And if you look at like the big picture, the way they've been kind of building like the islands in the South China Sea. Man, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
And just kind of looking at their movements, troop movements, and the way they even purchased. I wish I really remembered this name of this company, but there was they were making microchips, and there was a company, I think it was United States based or maybe it was Europe based, but they were making these microchips, and they partnered with like the Chinese government to build a factory over there, and there was going to be this mutual joint whatever. But what ended up happening is when they put the property, they pretty much took the technology, they reverse engineered it, and then took the patent. They bought all the shares, so that way they didn't have anything, and then they took it over.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they've been doing. You know what I mean? And so I don't know, but to circle back to your point, you're right. Like that makes sense, and it makes sense from that standpoint that at the very least, because at the very least you know that's how people establish wealth is through real estate, or property or land or what have you. That's the way it's been. I was reading it's like the rise and fall of the Comanches. I was telling you about Empire of the Summer Moon. And there is one part where it's talking about, I mean, you can go back and forth about, the genocide of Native Americans, and the other side of it's like, well, if that didn't happen, then we wouldn't have this country today, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things they did, whether right or wrong, and I can argue both sides of it, is when they came in, they actually they got a title or authorization license or whatever, and there were surveyors that actually had to move westward and claim the land. But in order to do that, that's actually where the Rangers came from, the Texas Rangers. Okay. They pretty much hired like mercenaries, these fucking guys that were just like, gritty and, pretty much adopted the ways that the Comanches were fighting on horseback, but they swapped it out from lances to revolvers or whatever guns that the handguns that they had. It's pretty fascinating. One from the Native American side, like how they were able to kind of just ride on top of a horse and fire, and then they had like a ring that they would throw around the horse's neck, and then it would slide down, to cover fire from the horse. And if the horse got shot, they would pretty much land on their feet and keep running and keep firing arrows. Pretty fascinating and badass. Like that's like superhero shit. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But on the other side of it, like these surveyors, more specifically like John Coffey, I think his last name was Hayes. I could be jacking that up, but he adopted like the way that he slept, like how they slept. He camped how they camped. He pretty much, like with any person trying to adapt and overcome an enemy, you adapt and you figure out and you live like they live. He did that. move westward. I mean, on the other side of it, we talked about this on the phone. Is like every nation is. I don't think there is one nation that wasn't built on the blood of others. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can say whether, and that's kind of like the state of our universe. Anything that comes. Destruction, before there can be beauty, there has to be like destruction, and that's probably a poor way to say it, but there's like a catalyst and a reaction to to it. Having said all that, they were moving these surveyors were having to move westward and then stake. So if you want land, you got to go with these guys, hire these guys, and then you got to go stake your claim on this land, and that meant clearing out whatever natives that live there. And like I said, it wasn't pretty. On the other side of it, I'm also learning how ruthless and because I think in my mind, I'll speak for myself. I used to fantasize about the idea of being a Native American. I know, and then based off my genealogy that I did, and it doesn't really specify which tribe or anything like that, but it says 54% Native American. We're that's cool. I'm part of this land in some kind of way, just connected me in some kind of way with that. But then to actually read about it and see how shit was then, you know what I mean? Tribes attacking other tribes, and it was just ruthless, man. Taking out women, children, everything. It was just fucking crazy. But that's just the way it was, I mean, I guess you could argue that they were encompassing the both sides of human nature, the evil and the good.
Right.
But with that, yeah. So to see what it took to actually get land in as opposed to now, and yeah, it's just. But that's how people establish wealth, they paid for it, they had to fight for it, and then even when they had it, they still had to fight off people because. You're also imposing on their hunting grounds and so it was just this huge conflict. Fast forward, to today, and like I said, that's a whole nother podcast or whatever.
For sure.
But speaking of which, so the market, you going back to it, how is that affected? Because that's one of the other things I would like to do is just property in general. Do you have any insight into that? How that shifted?
Just prices have gone up. I previously helped my brother-in-law purchase 2 acres, and I mean it wasn't as easy as it was years back.
Right.
I mean within the last 3 to 5 years. And we were looking south, outside 1604.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, back then, 20,000 for an acre.
Yeah.
Something like that, 30,000. Right now, it's nothing under 50.
Wow.
For an acre. So just to and I don't even think that's including utilities. You still have to get utilities out there. So,
right.
Just expensive, bro. It's
really
expensive.
And the process is a little bit different, right? If a person would have come in and be hey, I'm looking at property.
Oh, for property alone?
Yeah, there's a different lane for that, right?
So
process or
I've never really helped. For instance, a veteran get property like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard the Texas Vet Land Board is very popular and they offer competitive rates. So a lot of people go that route. For veterans, at least. And
the Texas Land Board that's from what I understand, because I had a buddy that was telling me about this. He's you should go check out the Texas Land Board, and those are seized properties or
no. So for them, it's they do the financing.
Got you.
So they do the financing, and you can buy land on a conventional loan, and that's what they offer you. So you can attain the land through financing as well.
Got you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, that's cool. I need to go check that out. But I mean, that is pretty significant, hike, especially if you're looking for an acre. And the south part of San Antonio, for those that don't know, it's land, it's property, but it's not something most people kind of try to right. They want hill country. At least maybe I'm talking to myself, by Canyon Lake and stuff. Yeah. It's hill country is nice, there's water and stuff like that.
Sure, it's even more expensive over there.
Yeah, so. I bet. So
the south side, my example on the south side was just kind of a standard, for people that do know, that are watching, that know, damn, if it's that much in the south side, how much more could it be Helotes and up there? So it's just really expensive.
Damn. Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, it's a shift everywhere, you know. So I don't know. I think with all the money printing that they did, for us, you know, not to know what was coming ahead, you know, in the
Right.
future, you know, with inflation and but the government the whole time was literally saying that we weren't going to be having these problems.
Right.
It's almost like they think we're stupid, you
Right.
know, and that's just me trying to
No,
be
yeah,
honest, you
yeah.
know,
Because
so
I was watching economists, independent economists, talk about like the problems ahead. Like,
Right.
hey, I know this stimulus money looks good right now, but like this is what's going to happen afterwards, and
Yeah.
it's all happening now. And it was almost like I was like, there was a certain part of me that was like, I hope they're wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
but
that
I mean, here we
optimism.
are. Yeah, you would hear like the examples like it's going to be like Venezuela, you know, like
Right,
where
right.
it's like stupid, like you're paying like $15 for a banana or whatever it
Right,
is.
right.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of where we're at right now, and it's just having to adjust and make more income, or pretty much.
Yeah, just be very smart with your finances. Be very, very smart. This ain't the time to splurge. This ain't the time to, you know, in my opinion, you know,
Right.
be like just really, really spending all this money on unnecessary stuff.
Right.
Because, you know, the next 12 to 18 months, I mean, they're very, very, you know, just, I don't know, unpredictable.
So
right?
when you say 12, 18 months to the next election, or like what is that window?
I mean, with the election, not so much. I'm just talking with the economy.
Got you.
You know, I mean, right now, like I said, whether or not we truly are in a bubble, you know, stock market wise, you know, if we do go into like a recession, like just like I said,
Yeah.
unpredictable,
Right.
Unpredictable. So just this is the time to just at least be financially secure to where if anything happens, you and your family are good for shoot at least 3 to 6 months. You know what I
Right.
mean, so you can just try to
Yeah, and that's one thing I've been. I mean, if the pandemic or anything that's happened over these last few years has kind of shown us, it's that you need to be self sufficient, whether it's financially, whether it's you know, food or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
That's kind of one of the reasons I started like picking up a bow, and like,
Yeah.
granted, there are other ways like use a gun, but I don't know. I've kind of just gravitated towards that, and I started going with my brother to some property, you know, like it's a plot. You go hunting on land and start trying to find my own, figure it out. You
Right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Because if shit were to hit the fan, I want to be able to. I'd rather learn right now in peacetime,
Yeah, yeah.
as opposed to having to do it later. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, fuck, I don't know what to
Right.
do. You know, setting up like a little box with a little stick for the bunnies or
Yeah,
whatever,
literally.
bunnies, rabbits.
Whatever.
But yeah, and so yeah, it's being more self-sufficient and trying to plan for. You're just talking about 3 to 6 months, but that's also like with food as well. But yeah, it's definitely crazy times, and I'm hoping that we can keep our as a society, you know, come together and like try to push ourselves out of it. Because right now it seems to be a lot of infighting, which is never good.
Right.
But yeah, so how do you like with all this? Like, what are ways that you kind of like keep the balance of like keeping yourself sane and stuff like that? Do you work out or do you?
Yeah. So primarily, I just stay consistent with my physical fitness. I don't run as much as I want to. I used to be a runner. I used to love to run. You know, weirdly enough, but you know, then when I got out of the military, I started just doing more weightlifting. I guess because we were forced to run every morning.
Yeah.
And then I got out and I just said, I'm never running again.
Yeah.
Even though I liked it, but I like doing it on my own. But when they tell you to do it for so
Yeah.
many years, you know, you're just like, nah, when I get out, I'm not going to do that. So I've just been doing weights and, yeah, it just clears my mind, you know. Sometimes you don't know, you get to the end of the day and you don't know if you accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got that workout in, you know,
Yeah.
I really believe that, you know, you carry that over to the next day because, you know, that 1%, you know, did you improve 1%?
Right.
And I was like, man, you know what? I think I did, you know, just by my workout alone.
Right.
You know, I could have failed at everything else during the day, but, you know, I got that workout in and I know how I work out. I push myself. I stay consistent. And like I said, that carries over.
Yeah.
So I just have that mindset, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think that's a huge part. But the biggest part is my faith.
Got you.
So my faith, I'm Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I've really came to just realize that my peace comes from my faith, which is in God.
Right.
So, like I said, besides that, but more on a physical level with just exerting the energy that's in my body. So just my faith, and then working out. I spend time with my wife, just family, my parents. We talk every day.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers, my older brother's in the military, so just
Oh, cool.
communicating.
What branch?
He's in the Marine Corps too.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, he's been in for 11 years.
Yeah, what's he do?
He's a DMO, so he does like bunch of the cargo,
Oh,
stuff
got you.
like that. He does like household goods. Like there's different sides to DMO.
Right.
So he's done quite a few. So like Embark and a couple other things.
Got you.
So he just got off of Mew, which is the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was like 9 months at sea. So he just got back.
I think that's one thing that people, and so not to kind of like
No,
curve over that, but yeah, I think fitness is important. I was slacking on the weightlifting thing. I mountain bike, that's one of the things that kind of brought me out of the dark place that I was in. There's other things, but that was another rung that I kind of used to pull myself out. And it continues to do that. The community that's around it, I kind of been finding other veterans and hanging out. It's just like kids on a bike. I need to take you out sometime. I got another bike. So whenever you're interested, when you got time, let me know. We'll set it up. I won't take you on anything crazy. I keep it mild, let you get comfortable with the bike and then keep going. But it's fun, man. It's really, it's like being a kid on a bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely important to keep the balance and trying to find whatever works for you. I know sometimes like video games, some people that works for them. Something I used to do when I was younger, I really don't do anymore. But working out, it was like weightlifting. I started throwing in swimming. I started throwing in bow. Meditation. Meditation that can be with prayer or what have you. But yeah, it's. I asked you those things because you can kind of feel like through the conversation, people are probably listening. I'm like, fuck, man. Like I don't want to hear about this shit. You know what I mean? Because it's a drag, dude.
Yeah.
And especially like getting out of the military, it's like I was hoping to get out and just get fat and like not have to worry about anything. But the more and more I saw like the way things are going, I was like, fuck, man, I can't rest. You know what I mean? I got to keep going, which I'm kind of glad for. But at the same time, it's like, because it's actually kind of helping me like level up in one way. And that's like spiritually, that's physically, that's on many different levels. And it's important to have a good foundation. So it's like faith-based. I was a study. I know in the military, I'm kind of going back to that. The military, they used to talk about like 5 pillars of resilience. It's one of them is spiritual, one of them is physical, one of them is like social. I forget what the other 2 are, but it's pretty much identifying what those things are, because the research has shown that if you do not believe in something, that you're more than people that don't believe have like and I'm not knocking atheists. I mean, whatever reason that they're there or they choose to kind of go that route, like that's just where they're at.
Right.
But they're less likely that don't believe in anything are more likely to kind of fall apart or like to, collapse on themselves because of whatever reasons, because if that's what kind of keeps you pushing through whatever hardship that you're having. And so yeah, man, that's cool that you have that foundation to kind of keep you pressing, because especially like, you're I would assume the head of the household, and they kind of follow your lead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that's by design.
Yeah.
So I believe in that. It's by design, and it's not to say that women have less value, because that's not true. It's just that there is order.
Right.
There is order.
Like a partnership.
Yep. And the man is, at the top of that.
Got
so
you.
It's not a value issue, which a lot of people think that whenever they hear like any beliefs from like a Christian, right? But the Bible doesn't teach that. The Bible teaches there's order, not value, like a difference in value. We're both made in the image of God, but man is the charge in the house.
Got you.
It's very important, and if you kind of see it in society sometimes, we're into like this generation where it's a lot of feminism going around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like women thinking they don't need that.
Right.
They don't need that man, and then their kids grow up without fathers, and then we see the outcome of things happening out in the world where kids grow up and they're just evil.
Yeah.
They didn't have that figure, so it's just very important to just point that out.
Yeah, and then on the other side of that too, then you also have women, like in the case of Amber Heard, Johnny Depp thing,
Yep.
that manipulate the situation, and they use society to paint a different picture about a person that's not true.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and more often than not, because I remember being, again, on deployments or wherever, or just at the smoke pit hanging out. I didn't smoke, but I was just out there hanging out because, people take a break. I go with them. And that was one of the main common things you would hear about is like baby mama drama. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it was fucking crazy how you would hear the same different examples of it, but the same agenda.
Yeah.
And it was to discredit the dad.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's rare that men do it, but it's more women based off the research that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called parental alienation where but that's not the clinical term. The clinical term is actually pathogenic parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the parent, one of the parents, hijacks the primal mechanism of the child.
Mm-hmm.
So, because in most situations, when a child, let's say one of the parents, beats them or what have you, no matter what they do to them, they still want to be part of that parent's life, right?
Right.
But in the situation where there's a pathogenic parenting issue, then from a young age, it could be intentional, it could be unintentional, or like subliminally, like, well, you went with your dad today? Nothing happened. That's, it could be something subtle, like, oh, I'm surprised.
Right.
But that kind of, over time, hijacks the child's like primal system, like to see the parent that's being alienated as the provider, and turns them into the threat.
Yeah.
So whether the child realizes or not, and sometimes they don't realize it till they're like 40 something years old. Right. And like some of the research that I've seen and some of the kids talking about it afterwards, I've even talked to like other veterans about it. And they're like, were in the child's position, and they were like, yeah, I just realized this, and then I was being this way to my dad for this amount of years. And, but it's evil, man. But at the same time, that is a reality of it, is that because for whatever reasons that the parent deems it's necessary to do that, whether they're hurt or what have you, it definitely takes that part of it out. Right. You know what I mean? And there are like good, fathers out there, and in some cases moms that are trying to be part of it, but it's just what do you do with that? So
they use the children as leverage.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so bad.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, so I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, it is definitely part of like that dynamic. I think what you're talking about is the two parent households. Yeah. Oh, Amber Heard. That's how I got into it. Because luckily I don't think they have kids, but if they did,
not together. Yeah.
Yeah, but if they did, that'd be fucking.
Yeah, it would be worse.
It would be worse, and it's not more. It's not for the parents. It's more the kids. You know what I mean? And that's what every situation.
Yeah, I mean, and even at that, like most judges, right, or just in any case, they see women. Yeah.
Especially.
Just they single them out and they just say, "Hey, well, you're the mom. You deserve benefits or whatever. You deserve to have it all your way." Type of thing. Like don't even. The father was there. He provides. He's giving you everything, but they. They grant whatever she wants. It kind of always leans one way, and you always see it, and it sucks because it's not like not every dad or wants to be absent. That's not true, right? But the world makes it seem like that.
Yeah, and it definitely reinforces that idea. You know what I mean, that men are evil. And don't get me wrong, there's some some bad guys out there and they beat women and shit like that, and like maybe that's a result of them not having their father around or not instilling those ideas and showing taking the lead and showing how a relationship is supposed to be, yada yada. But at the same time, it's just like that's a definitely real reality, and I'm glad that it was brought out, and it sucks that it has to happen from somebody that's famous, as opposed to, because this shit happens every day within the court systems. It happens, I've heard lawyers talk about it, how, like you pretty much need to, maybe not so much now, but you pretty much needed to have, the mom with a crack pipe, the kid lighting it, and then maybe you'll get custody, because if she says like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to, go get help," then, either way, I know what you're saying. It's whether it's a known bias or like an unknown bias that judges have. It is one that's very realistic and affects a lot of our society today, mental health and so forth.
But just going back on the 5 pillars, I think I've heard it a little bit different. I think I've heard it. It's like the wheel of life, and then it's like a pie chart thing. They split it up, right? Like this perfect circle, and I think it's got those same things. It's spiritual, faith, like spiritual, finances, physical fitness. I think intellectual, like read if you
like
read
knowledge base. Yeah,
I forgot the 5th one. Family, I think it's family. I'm pretty sure it's
that
family.
makes sense.
So it's a wheel, right? And it's broken up into even parts. And it's like you kind of rate yourself. Where do you think you are with family? Like you spend enough time with your family, like you rate yourself. Finances, where are your finances? I think the scale being 1 through 5. And then, you have like little dash marks, and then you just, pinpoint wherever you think you are, and you go around the circle.
Yeah.
And then you connect the dots. And what does your wheel look like?
Yeah. It makes sense.
Does it roll? Does it not roll? Like, why doesn't it roll? And you kind of just see like, all right, well, where should you pick up some slack,
Right. No, yeah, and that makes sense, and that's kind of one thing that like I always kind of talk about. That's one thing that the military like also enforce. They try to do, and maybe I just drowned it out at the time, but it was like teaching balance, right? Because they teach you they're really good about teaching you how to take care of others. But it seemed like they didn't start catching on to this maybe the last 7 to 8 years in the military, where they started like, hey, you need to take care of yourself. But by that point, you're already conditioned, and like maybe you already kind of picked up all these bad habits, and then deployments, TDYs, etc. You're just kind of focused on like the airman, the marine, or whoever, and taking care of them, the mission.
The mission.
Yeah, and then you're kind of left to be hollow, I guess, to a certain extent, if you don't keep that balance.
Exactly. But I think it starts with faith. You know what I mean? Because you can't have, whatever it is that you're in, whether it's your, whatever career you're in, whatever it is that you do, that, your purpose isn't really that, because we all have an expiration date, like in our uniform, right? Like you retired.
Yeah.
So there's people that are in the service right now who, they eat, breathe, live, everything, just military, right? But at some point they're going to get out and life's going to hit them hard. So they have to realize that, there needs to be, their purpose is something else. It's not in that, it's a good stepping stool, right? It's going to get them somewhere. I believe that. But again, it's just, you got to think more of yourself than just that bubble that you're in, you know what I mean? Because even from real estate, if I said, oh, I'm 100% real estate, I'm all hustle, I'm all this, I'm that, I'd be lying.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'd be going home empty in my heart just because my identity's not in that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why my purpose came out to actually really, really be genuine and help people. Because people have been screwed over before. In the process, like I was mentioning, where lenders pointing them in the wrong direction and so they can make more money. Greed, going back to greed.
Right.
So, like I said, purpose in what you're doing. What's your purpose in, whether you're in the military or, whatever job you have, when you get out, after you retire, what is your identity in? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's very important. I think that only comes through some faith that you have in something other than, than yourself, something higher, something above, right? If not, like you said, you just kind of, you'd be dead. You just kind of day to day, not really, just wherever life leads me type of saying. People
Yeah.
say that all the time, and I get that, but I mean, at some point, whether when you have kids or you try to have a family, you can't live that kind of wherever life takes us, babe.
Yeah.
No, you're the man. Like you lead,
Right.
lead with purpose.
And I think that's a lot of times, and I speak from my own experience as well, is I think that's one of the reasons why I got to such a dark place is I didn't have that balance, whether like, I was away from my kids, which I missed a lot.
Right.
I try to be as much in their lives as possible. All my money, all my my leave,
Right.
everything went towards that. Like, I really didn't. I think we took like one vacation, like Sandy and I, to like we're in Europe. 'Cause we're about to leave, but and I'm not bitching about it, but that's where everything went.
Right.
And then fast forward, I kind of go get help for some, like I wasn't, my last unit, my first year there, my mission kind of went away and I wasn't my ops tempo wasn't as high.
Right.
I wasn't out the door anymore. So I had more time in my thoughts, started drinking more, you know what I mean? I started kind of just, all this shit started coming in. I want to go get help because I wasn't sleeping.
Right.
Fast forward, doing the mission, plus whatever meds they put me on, that kind of triggered a med board.
Right.
And then that kind of just, when the med board came up, like speaking my identity, because at some point I had to buy into the system, right?
Yeah.
When my first 5 to 6 years or 7 maybe, I really didn't buy into it, I was like, I was trying to get out at 4 years, but then September 11th happened. I got stop loss. I was on deployment. I was like, fuck, I might as well re up.
Right.
And then I buy into the system. It becomes my identity, because, for a lot of different reasons or what have you. And then when that med board got triggered or, happened or whatever, whether right or wrong, it kind of was like my last straw, you know what I mean? And that's kind of where I kind of took it. I mean, that wasn't the reason. It was a lot of other shit that, kind of led me to that point. I just didn't see it at that time.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm glad it happened because it brought me to this point of awareness and understanding of who I am and what I'm capable of,
right.
etc. But with that, comes with, like purpose, kind of knowing where I came from, like where I was, and I don't want other people to be there, which is kind of where it led me to here. And like, a lot of good things happen from that. I forgot where I was going with it, but it's purpose, right?
Yeah.
My identity was tied to that. And I can see that when I speak to certain people, I'm saying certain people. Well, I guess certain people, especially my last 5 years, I worked with a lot of contractors, a lot of retired GSs, and they still had that rank on them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they carried themselves as such,
Yeah.
which I can understand to a certain extent. But when you kind of use it as a way to kind of, put your dominance on people, it's like, dude, you're not there no more, dude.
Right.
And maybe that was because they didn't transition out of the military and so they were still in the same environment. So it kind of still bred that same, you know what I mean?
Right,
like where they felt like they still earned that, they felt they needed that level of respect from others. But yeah.
And it's probably because they're back to doing military work, right? In a sense, you go to any other job, you realize quick that you're back down to ground zero.
Right.
You're back to the bottom and you got to work your way up.
Right.
And I'm not saying that in the position that you get at a new job after getting out, I'm just saying in general with the people around you, the community, now you're here, you got to establish yourself again. You were established once before and now you got to reestablish yourself. But now you carry on your experiences, everything that you've learned. Maybe you got money saved up. You're confident because of what you've done in the past. And that helps, right? But yeah, like I know what you mean with people just either thinking that they still got rank on, what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad to see. And again, not knocking on any of their accomplishments, achievements that they did, but it's very important that when you transition, you kind of, I think you should hang that hat,
Yeah. And at the same time, and I agree with what you're saying, but I feel that there's at a certain point, there are people like they feel if they hang that hat, then they're not going to be anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's also understanding like who you are as a person, like,
Yeah.
and then like having that foundation.
Exactly.
But at the same time, be able to put that hat back on if you need it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of, I mean, I don't want to speak for, I'm overgeneralizing here, but I feel like a lot of veterans don't want to do that because they feel that they'll never be able to put that hat back on if they need it. Like if shit hit the fan, I wouldn't be able to access this part of me because it is part of you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like there's a time and place for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it is. I mean, I believe we walk around with that every day. You know, the moment we leave the house, you know, or even here in the house, it doesn't change the fact that, you know, we served. You know, I'm pretty sure a lot of stuff has carried over the way that you do certain things in the house.
Right.
Certain things that you won't let fly around this house. Like, you know, you got to adjust certain things. Like when I walk in here, I see order. I mean, things aren't just all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, again, comes from either something that you were taught, you know, when you were younger, but I think military life, especially military life, it teaches that. And you do that on a daily, you know, with either your junior enlisted, you know, you hold them to a standard of order. You hold yourself to a standard of order.
Right.
So when you walk into a house, you see order.
Got you.
You know what I mean? So it's in you. It's a part of you for sure.
Yeah.
But for your identity, your full identity to be in that, I mean, you, like I said, you'd be a sad person, I think, overall, because, you know, you have other things that are more important, you know, than just the experience that you had in the military.
Right.
You know, to be a loving husband. You know, the military don't teach you that. You know?
No,
you're
you're right.
To be a good father, to just take care of things here, protect your family, like just a lot of other things I think that you have to be able to either learn as you go, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure you learn as you go. No one's going to teach you those things.
Right.
But that's what I'm trying to say is if you just have that hat on all the time, you may not be the best loving father.
Right.
You know, you're going to fall short. So, or the best husband to your wife.
Right.
So, and again, just those two things alone is very important, or else you could have a bad life. You know what I mean? To leave, just leave you empty-handed, I think, you know, towards your older years, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you would have showed up like an hour and a half earlier, it was a bit of out of order. So I was make sure to clean up and stuff before.
I mean, just in general.
Yeah. No, I got you. I'm just like, I'd feel guilty on some level, like accepting that compliment, but like, well, you should.
No, yeah, no. I mean, like I said,
My clothes still aren't put up in the room. So it's like, yeah, you better put that shit up. But at the same time, there's that balance, right? You know, it's like you talked about partnership and stuff like that, and I think that's one thing I told my son and my daughter was, don't look for somebody like when you're finding a partner, like find somebody that compliments you, not in the sense of like, hey, you're doing good today. Right. No, like compliments your character and like pushes you, and vice versa. They push you to be greater than what you are.
Right.
It may not always be fun to hear, like, you know, have somebody call you on your shit, but at the same time, that's what makes you better, you know, because we're humans. We slack off, you know, respectfully. Yeah. But at the same time, like, you know, that you don't have to. It's good to be the man and take care of them, but not so much so, in my opinion, where they're solely dependent on you. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Like, if I leave, I want to be okay that I want to be, what's the word? I want to be confident that you know how to take care of stuff while I'm gone. You know what I mean? As opposed to be like, I remember I was on one deployment and, I had a guy I was in the room with on this one deployment. Like, we were in comm, so we were able to set up our rooms with phones and shit, which was a nicety. No, not everybody had that. You normally had to go to the call center. Oh, okay. But you know, that's kept, you know, perks of the for sure. of the job or whatever. So we had a dedicated line to each of our rooms, which wasn't right. But there's a lot of shit that happens on deployments. It's not by the books. I don't give a shit what anybody says. But his wife called and she was like, she was crying. She was on the side of the road. And granted, I don't know what all was going on in her life at that time. Maybe some shit was going on, but she was calling him to help her with a flat tire. And he was like, what the fuck do you want me to do about it? Like, I'm over here. I'm sorry. Call call your mom, call like whatever relatives are in the area, call triple A, call somebody else. I'm sorry, but I can't help you.
Yeah.
But that was like a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Like, figure it out. You know what I mean? And especially in this world of convenience now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've noticed that and maybe it's with each generation where you start losing a certain edge or like a certain adaptability to it.
Right.
Like where you just look at something and I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen kids just kind of like just stay stuck on looking at something that's very basic.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they don't know how to, if they don't have a phone, they don't know how to do it. They don't have YouTube. They don't know how to do it. So that's what I'm talking about. Like find somebody that's going to like be a second in command, if you will, if you're or like at least, same command or whatever, like, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. And like, okay, and not be like, oh, I don't know how to do this. And I can't do it without you and stuff like that. It's just like, that's cool when you're like earlier in the relationship and maybe you're still kind of building your confidence, but not when like in real life.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think that, like, for example, right, everything that my wife does at home, that does not have to do, I mean, we don't have a kid yet, but that's a different conversation, right?
Right.
So what we do now, I can handle whatever she does. I don't necessarily, and I'm not saying I don't appreciate what she does. I'm saying that, I'm comfortable enough to clean my own house, make myself food, do my own laundry,
right?
Whatever the little things that she does, and like I'll be okay, doing them myself. I don't know if she can do everything that I do. Obviously, there's differences. She's the woman, I'm the man,
right?
But like you said, just to kind of at least know how to do it in case I'm gone for a little bit, in case something happens. Like where stuff is at. You know how to do certain things in the house. Like where. Like I said, just how to handle business in the case of my absence.
Right.
And I think that's kind of going back to what you were saying. It's not necessarily saying that you have to do it, but just know about it.
Right.
Like ask questions, be involved. This is your house. This is, like you said, realistically, anything can happen to me at any time. And I'd want to know that you're okay, that you will be okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like I said, it's very important to just, like you said, that second person in the home,
right? Exactly.
Handle business.
Yeah, it's like because you're like a team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether people, because I feel like and maybe some people listening. I mean, you can't really control what people think about you or not. Like they're gonna perceive you based off of their limited amount of experiences, and they're gonna run with that. Some people are a little bit more wise. They'll be like, well, maybe he meant it this way. Maybe he could have meant it that way. Right. But at the end of the day, that's pretty much what it is it's not necessarily being an authoritative figure where it's like, you do what I say because I'm the man. And I'm not saying like one way or the other. But for me, it's like, no, like I need, and that's one thing I try to do with Sandy is I try to provide opportunities. Like there's been long trips that I will not go on because I feel like this is, I feel like you need to do this on your own. Yeah. It's not because I don't want to go, but there's certain times you need I'm providing an opportunity for you to grow.
Yeah.
Like one of the things was she went to last year during the snowstorm. She went up to Abilene, and it was just like, I don't know if we should go or not because the weather. But I feel like if we didn't do those things to kind of prepare her. I mean, granted, she is prior military as well, but just like anybody else, we all have weaknesses. I got a bunch of weaknesses, I'm sure, that I try to shore up now. Yeah. Because I feel like once you become aware of those, you should have the strength and the responsibility to do something about them. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. And, but anyways, she went up to Abilene. And they got it bad. We all got a lot of snow. She was at her sister's house, and they lost electricity. But when the day she knew she had got stuck there, I was like, all right, like this is, because even before she went, I was like, take sleeping bags, take this in the event that you do get stuck, that take water, whatever, that you're at least somewhat prepared for it. So she did. She got stuck. She couldn't drive back. It was too icy. And then she called me and she told me, and I was just like, all right, now this is, you start preparing for it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Get thick blankets, you know, where you can fill up the bathtub with water,
Yeah.
you know, go to the store, get everything
Right.
you need. And she did that, and she grew from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was there to help her sister and her family. I think she's got like 4 or 5 kids, and she was able to do that.
Right.
The house that we're in was older, so it didn't have the insulate. You know what I mean? It's the raised, what's it called?
Like the ceilings or
No. You know when the older homes where they're built off the ground, it doesn't have a concrete foundation,
pier and beams.
pier and beams. So you know the coal gets underneath it, and so there was a number of factors that kind of led to it. But at the same time, luckily they had gas, you know,
Okay.
so they were able to use the gas stove to, you know, like light stuff up,
Yeah, yeah.
light
Have
stuff
light
up,
in general.
which is one of the reasons why we purchased this home. We were like, does this have gas?
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Gas
Just for,
community.
and I know that's not like the sole reason, but anyways, I don't want to get too far off my point. But my point is, like, provide opportunities for like your partner to grow. And I'm not telling you, I'm just speaking in general,
Right.
because there may be a time where I may not be able to be there, and I'd rather you do it in a controlled environment as
Right.
opposed to not controlled. So when shit hits the fan, you're just like,
Exactly.
does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's whenever things aren't happening that you should be asking questions. Or at
Exactly.
least, you know, brainstorm with whatever it is that you're doing. You know, you do something a certain way, but ask yourself, man, what if I tried it differently? You know, just always be thinking, critical thinking. You know, just
Right.
very important, I think.
Yeah, and so I think that goes back to the way I was brought up too. My mom would always she would always say like, "Ponle trucha,"
Yeah.
you know, like be aware, you
Ponte
know.
truchas.
Yeah, ponte trucha. And that was just like she would always say that, and she would always like talk about these scenarios. She would always talk about death too, like, you know, it's just like, hey, I'm not always going to be here, and I do that as well. But like it's just like I think whether it's conditioned like subtly, like, hey, you know, this life is short.
Right.
But she also, so it was like twofold. Not saying that she didn't do everything she could to provide for us, but there were times where we went without. You know, we
Right.
went without food. We went without, you know, water. We had to boil, you know, water to take a bath. You know, there's all these different things,
Yeah.
and there's like a different level of poverty, right?
Right.
We talked about this on the phone, and fortunately for me, I was brought up in those conditions, and maybe some people that may hear this like, oh, I would never want my kids to go through that.
Yeah.
But you want in my opinion, you want to suffer somewhat, like because it brings resilience.
Right.
And I feel that maybe because people in not everyone, but good amount of people that grew up in our generation were brought up with not having,
Right.
so therefore there was some resilience. But on the other side of it, we try to make up for it. Like, I never want my kids to suffer, so I'm gonna give them the best this, the
Right.
best that, and that's kind of bred entitlement
Yeah.
and a lot of other things. Luckily, you and I have both been to different countries. The third world countries, that's like a different level of poverty.
Right.
You know what I mean? And do you have any like? So what have you experienced as kind of you learned from?
So one time we went to we were in the Philippines. We were doing like a field op, and I saw this Muay Thai champion Filipino. I mean, at least in whatever, you know, place that we were at the time, he literally traded like trophies with his name on it, like of being first place, you know, whatever that he had from tournaments. He's like, here, like, these are valuable to me, but he traded them for MRE boxes.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
Dead serious. And
Dude, that like I feel that, dude.
Yeah.
It's just like fuck.
I mean, yeah, I can't make this up. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
And the guy was like, yeah, I'm just trying to feed my family for MRE boxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there we were, you know, here we go, you know, he
Yeah.
gave us a trophy. I was like, I don't really need this. He's like, no, I can't accept it. Like, I need the trade. Like, trade me, you know?
Right.
So we did. And like, when I saw that, I was like, man, it's kind of, is that serious out here? You know,
Yeah.
and it is that serious.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just with the convoy in itself, just driving by, you know, you saw it.
Yeah.
They looked worse than Mexico in that part. I mean, we came from like what's it called? Well, I forgot where exactly it was like we're reported, and then we took the convoy to the training site where we passed through. I mean, you saw the transition from just, you know, it was normal town looking, to
Right.
just bamboo, type houses, man. I can't make this up.
Right.
Kids running around naked, like,
Yeah.
because I don't know if they didn't have clothes or what, but like I said, it was just
That was
big
just their
shit.
reality, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, over here, people were trying to hustle you for sunglasses. We take the convoy. People out here selling their valuables for food, for MRE boxes.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, wow, like what a big transition, and you don't see that out here. Like, people aren't living like that here, and they don't know how good it is to have water at your disposal. Boom, like wash
Yeah.
your hands, shower.
Not only that, like we have like fucking. I was at the store the other day, and it's not my original idea. I've heard of other people from third world countries talk about it, but like when they get here to the United States from, like, let's say a refugee or what have you, they go to our grocery stores and they're like overwhelmed because there's like fucking 30 different breads to choose from, and then, like, speaking of water, something so that we take for granted over here.
We do.
There's like fucking 70 different water bottles you can choose from and where it's from and all this stuff.
Right.
And they're having in some of the countries, they're having to walk miles just to go get water from a well that may be contaminated or not. I'm not really sure. And then bring it back so they can have for their family.
Right. And that's a daily thing.
Yeah, and that's a daily thing.
Every day.
Yeah.
They get water for themselves. I mean, I didn't really experience that, obviously, but when we would go to my grandma's house when I was younger, they live it's called Tulancingo Hidalgo. It's about an hour away from Mexico City. So we're talking about like south, deep in Mexico. And they had a water heater, but the water heater was this weird one where at the bottom has like a little like latch, and you open it, and you have to heat it up yourself. So you break off a couple of pieces and you start a fire in there.
Wow.
And you have to like keep filling it until it gets hot. The moment you feel it hot, hey, jump in the shower. It's good for one shower.
Yeah.
Boom, my brother jumps in, boom, 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 and I'm trying to keep up with the fire. He gets out quick. I mean, it's a quick shower.
Right.
And like I said, just something like that. And that's how we did it.
Right.
I get out, he goes and he watches it while I jump and get a hot shower, because you have to heat up the water as you're using it.
Exactly.
And like I said, what a luxury that we have here.
Yeah, exactly. So. And then, and it, on the other side of that, it's like people that don't have perspective, especially like a lot of our society, like it's disheartening because when you leave the military, you're leaving like a bubble, right? You don't have time to process everything that's going on in the world, at that time. Like, your world is the military, right. And that sounds, but that's just the reality of it. Like, you go in the morning, you get briefs, you in brief, and then at the end of the day, out brief. The weekends, safety brief, everything is controlled, and that's by design.
Yes.
And you don't really have a whole lot of freedom to say what you want, because that's by design also. You can't have like 1,000 different people going in different directions. Like, when shit hits the fan, you just fucking move in the same direction. You can have whatever your thoughts are, whether like what do you choose to believe in, or whatever sex you are, whatever. Like, we don't got time for that shit right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, keep that shit to yourself, right. And let's keep moving forward. You know what I mean? Because we don't have time to go through every nuance emotion that we have. You know what I mean? Because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But when you get out and you kind of, take off those lenses, if you will, and you kind of start settling back into society, and then you hear like so many people, and at least based off of the outlets that are pushing it out,
right.
You hear so many people bitching about this trivial shit that doesn't matter. You can call it first world problems, but at the end of the day, it results to the bigger problem. Yeah. That it's going to be a rude awakening if this country were to go to war, like, and on our soil, like, there's going to be a rude awakening on many different levels, where people going back to not being independent, sufficient, and not even being conditioned, going back to fitness or spiritually, or these number of things. If you don't have that good foundation, if you can't do it during peacetime, you're gonna be able to do shit during, like, and I'm not even saying that I'm the baddest motherfucker, or right. But at the same time, I do have a different understanding of what it may take.
Right.
And even then, I may still be freaking out a little bit, depending on the level
For sure.
of catastrophe it
Yep.
may or may not be. I don't want that to happen, but I'd rather be. You're talking about prepare for it in peacetime,
Yeah.
as opposed to doing it later when it's fucking too late.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of it is just your mindset. You know,
Yeah.
I know some dudes who, you know, they may not be like any way or shape or form involved in any sort of fitness or outdoor activity, but the way their minds work like blows mine out of the water in
Right.
regards to just it just clicks and they move along and they think just like I do, basically. You know,
It's like a switch.
yeah, I mean, and it's crazy, you know. Or you have guys who are all about, you know, the gung ho stuff. You know, I mean, they collect guns, they go out shooting way more, and they think they're the most prepared. But then you talk to them, and then it's like they have this, their mindset ain't all there. You know, what I mean? I'm like, damn, man, like you really
They fantasize about
you
it.
fantasize about it. So, but when it hits the fan, you know, I don't know which way you're gonna go, you know, versus people who have this different mindset
Right.
of just being able to think ahead, critical thinking. Like I said, faith in something else, you know, other than yourself. And those are the people that I think normally react, you know, in a better way versus someone who is like just not really all there in their mind. That's why I would
Right.
put I would protect my mind over my physical, you know, I guess fitness. It goes hand in hand,
Right.
but it starts up here. You know, if I'm not good up here, my body ain't following nothing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna be a piece of crap. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important to really work on your mind and just
Right.
either read about stories, read about, you know, people that have got it done, be involved with others that get it done, so you can see and learn. You know, always be a student. I think that's important too.
Right.
Just practice your craft, whatever it is,
Right.
You know what I mean? Learn something new. People are scared to learn something new.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why. I mean,
I think they're afraid of failure, or like
Yeah.
the way people are going to perceive them.
right.
But
And
at
we're all scared of failure in some sort of way. I'm
Oh,
not going
yeah.
to talk like I jump to every single thing that I
dude,
can't.
That's
you know.
one of my biggest problems, man.
Yeah.
Is like I factor in too much of what
And
other
that's
people
what I
may
was
perceive.
saying is that, you know, there's people who just do. They're fearless. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm gonna go start this business, and I'm like, you know, I'm thinking about numbers, I'm thinking about this, and they're like, they just do it,
Right.
Like they're gonna go learn. You know what I mean? And or whatever it is, and that's or. For instance, let's just say, you know, people can hold the camera to their face and just, you know, talk and go live. That's tough. People can't just do that. I can't really do that.
Yeah.
Even with being in, you know, in real estate, you know, a lot of these realtors, you know, they go live and stuff because I'm scared of looking stupid.
Right.
You know, and that's what I'm telling you is that there's people that just click in their minds and
Yeah.
like they have that mentality. I don't care what anyone says. Like, I'm gonna just do it. And I think it's important to kind of acknowledge those people too, because you know they're strong in that.
Yeah, there's a certain level of courage in that.
Yeah.
And it's not courage is not always like on the battlefield. You know?
Exactly.
There's different levels of courage is what I'm learning.
And that's what I'm saying. Like leaders who aren't scared to look dumb, like in front of others. Like they're not trying to calculate everything. Like they're doers.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like you said, how are you going to learn unless you just try it?
Right.
You know, and that's what I'm really, I would say, conservative in. Is sometimes is I don't do things that I want to do. Like I'm really interested, but my fear kicks in.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't want to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so-
And that's kind of like this podcast. That's one of the things. And like that's something. One of the reasons I feel like there's all these different. There's all these different, like, whether you want to call them like signs or signals from God or the universe, whichever one like people want to go in, but those are there to kind of like for you to like they're like subtle hints, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, hey, you know, this is the way. And one of the things for this podcast, like me and my kids would have these deep conversations, like as we're having now, like, and it wasn't because I was trying to push an agenda on them,
Right.
but I was really trying to get them to critically think about, like, hey, the situation is not always just black and white. There's black, white, gray, blue. You know, we can keep going
Right.
based off people's experiences. And they were like, you should start a podcast, and I was just like, ha ha ha, you know, like I got, you know,
Yeah.
same things.
Yeah.
And then I was maybe a few years back, I was riding somewhere on the trails here, and I ended up having a conversation who happened to be a veteran, and I kind of just floated the idea of, you know, making videos or something like that.
Right.
And he's like, my daughter says, he's like, one of the best things I told my daughter was, you know, just do it. Don't think about it. You can just, like, he pretty much said, like, just get better at it each time. Like, don't, if you think about it, you're never going to do it.
Right.
So I've take that same concept, you know, along with other leaders and stuff in my past, that it's just always get better each video. It's like working out, get better. Like, you may not be good at first, but that's kind of one of my mantras, if you will, that I kind of preach to people, but I also try to practice it at the same time.
Yep. And that's what it's funny because you mentioned that, right? And it's almost like I'm hypocritical because I didn't expect to walk into a gym and start benching 315.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. You work your way there.
Yeah.
But yet, in other things, in my mind, I'm thinking that I gotta be really good.
Right
off the jump. It doesn't make sense, but it's like I said, you have to kind of combat those thoughts, and that's where your mind starts really working and starts really saying, like, bring you to reality. Like, no, be consistent.
Right.
Be consistent with what you do. So
and that's one thing I lack in is consistency, and not in the sense of like, but pushing out videos and stuff like that. And that's something I'm working on. Is like, I have all these good ideas. I feel they're good ideas, but I don't put them to process because I'm not putting in the work, because I'm also like trying to not maintain, but keep my balance, you know, for like family, spending time with like my wife and my family and stuff like that. And also these other things. So I'm trying to keep that level of balance while, you know, trying to do the things I also want to do.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely, it doesn't come overnight, and it's just something you just need to start doing, whatever it is. Like the bow, like, you know, when I first picked it up, I was struggling, dude, you know, trying to pull it back. My arms are shaking and shit. Yeah. But over time I've gotten better at it, you know, and I try to do it every day, and it doesn't take that much time. And that's one of the things I hear most people say is like, I don't have enough time. But really and truly, like, if you really, like, you know, took apart your day and took a serious analytical approach to it, you would see how much time you waste. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not you specifically, but me in general. Sometimes I get on it, like, I try not to be on social media that much, but there are times where I catch myself, you know, scrolling, and then I'm like, I could be doing something else right now. Right. And that may be show as inconsistency on posts and stuff like that, but it's not necessarily that. It's more so like, I'm working on other stuff right now. And I don't got time for this right now, you know? But yeah, it definitely, it's time, consistency, and so identifying those weaknesses, being aware of them, and then trying to build on them. Yeah,
it's just time management, you know, and we all struggle with it. You know, I don't think there's somebody out there who can really say that they manage their time perfect. Yeah. You know, I call them out and say, you're lying. You know what I mean? Because I can ask you, oh, you're doing good in business? How's your family? How, you know, how's that? Oh, well, how's your physical fitness? You know, oh, well, business, you know. And again, like, they all wish they can plug in more time in these categories. So again, I think they'd be lying. It's just where your priority stands. And that's what I'm trying to say is, I believe in balance, but organized. I mean, what is it? Chaotic.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, organized chaos. You know what I mean? So it's like a balance where you can fluctuate and still be good up here. You know, because once you lose it in your mind, it's tough to come back from. Can you come back? Of course, you know, 100%. But again, I think it's just something where you understand and you're willing to accept that you're not perfect. Actually, no one is perfect, and you're gonna work through that. You know what I mean? So it's not about giving up. It's just be consistent with your priorities. If your family is your priority, be consistent. If your business is, be consistent. Whatever it is, you know, like, just. But I think, don't be afraid, like you were saying, to just fail. You know, right? I'm basically preaching to myself.
No, yeah, and like, and that's one thing. So I think one word before I forget, because I forget a lot, is agile. Be agile. Like, that's one thing the Air Force would always talk about, like, is being agile, and like, that's why we deployed like in a minimal footprint. It's like, we're like Marines and Army, they would deploy in massive units, which is, there's a purpose for that. Air Force, it was like, we would get to deployments and we'd meet our team there and try to learn whatever. But yeah, it's being consistent and being agile with it. and with that, it's just yeah, it's just a practice and trying to keep building on it. And yeah, you bring up good points. Damn, I was going somewhere with that again. I forgot, dude. But
I think, I mean, we're just talking about mindset. I think, you know, where either it drags you down or how it affects you, you know. And I think if we backtrack before that, we were just talking about like post-military life, your purpose,
right,
and then how it affects the generations now.
right.
Where we feel like, I don't know, in my opinion, the next 10 years, you know, the kids now, I don't know what they're going to have in their, you know, what kind of mindsets they'll have where something happens on our soil, you know,
Yeah.
it's going to be a tough one, you know,
And maybe each like I try to think about that often is like, well, what did the past generations think about us?
yeah,
You know what I
think
mean?
about
It's
that
like,
too.
oh man, this new generation. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
kind of like this perpetual thing that
Right.
happens with each. Like, so our parents, they came out of the generation where their parents went through the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And then, so they kind of had those values, you know, and then they try to easing it up on us and
Right.
each generation, so forth and so on. But now I feel like we overcorrected.
Right.
And it's like Christmas every day, you know what I mean? And people are getting new stuff all the time. And it's just it's not sustainable to acquire these amount of products and goods and sensationalism with like videos and movies and
Right.
stuff like that. Attention span is getting smaller. That's one thing I'm learning in social media.
Yeah.
It's getting smaller. You got to make videos that are like 10 seconds and
Right.
lower. And it's just the human mind was not designed or created to accept all this information and process it like in the way it is so exponentially.
Right. Right.
And I think that kind of brings its own, you know, I've talked about Childhood 2.0,
Right.
and I've also talked a documentary, and there's also talked about the social dilemma, where it talks about apps and like how
Yeah.
have you seen
Track
it?
everything.
Yeah. And that's the military. Another part of it. Like, so I was talking to somebody the other day, like, yeah, I use a VPN. Like, that shit don't matter, man. If
Yeah.
they want to see your stuff, they're gonna see it. They're
Yeah.
gonna, and they store everything. But that's a whole different conversation.
Right.
But the biggest thing I think takeaways is be consistent, disciplined to a certain extent, organize chaos, and just try to, you know, manage it as best as you can, because life will kick you in the nuts, and it's like learning how to respond from that.
Right,
you know, if you need to take a knee for a little bit, you know, then but you still got to come up from it.
Yeah.
You can only be the victim for so long before
right.
you actually have to do something and come out of that. But yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I think this is a good conversation. I think it's good added value. And yeah, where can people find you? Like if they were looking for like real estate or anything like that.
I mean, on Facebook, just type in my name, Jose Chavarria.
Okay.
Last name spelled Chavarria.
I'll put like a little thing on the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, any questions about real estate? You know, like I said, I'm not even in it to make a buck, and I just care about people getting treated right, being provided good service, and like I said, just full transparency, especially in the market that we're in.
Right.
And again, if you're a veteran, you should buy a home. If you're renting, I think you should buy a home. You know, be a landlord. Don't even move in. Just buy it, rent it out. You know, I don't care. But like you said, foreign countries coming out here, buying up the land, monopolizing. You know, we need more vets, you know, that have, you know, actually defended this country to buy the property that they helped defend. So let's do it. You know, that's kind of the message that I push to any veteran out there that may be worried. If you know a veteran, let them know that I said, you know, go buy a house, you know. So just get with a good lender and they'll hook you up.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, again, thanks for coming on, and hopefully you come on some other time, and we'll kind of continue this conversation, because I do feel like we left a lot on the table, but at the same time, you know, it's, you know, kind of keep people wanting more information, you know, and like keep them
for sure.
But thanks for listening. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on, so just search Crash and Chugg. There's more stuff coming. I've got something working on in the background. Well, I still got to send the information over. I'm still going to try to keep growing this thing. I don't make any money off this podcast. Everything you see here, I purchase with my own money. I don't have any sponsors when it comes to this podcast, but my goal is to bring information. I do believe in freedom of speech. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was like your perception on the flag. because there's these different like nuanced approaches of what people view as a flag, whether it's like, I think more currently, the mainstream has kind of been, they allowed, everything that happened with Trump, like I don't want to say hijack the flag, but they believe in a certain thing, and that's what the flag is for. People can go based off of the like what the nation was founded on, as I alluded to earlier. Mm-hmm. There's not one nation that wasn't built on either slavery or blood of others, or like the land had to be taken by somebody, and I'm not agreeing with it. That's just part of our past, and I feel like we should grow and learn from it, and then build on that. Right. The flag is not for just one person. It's what's your perception. Me personally, I feel it's hope of what it could become, what it could be about, what I served. And I'm not saying I was the best, enlisted person or anything like that. I had flaws just like any other, but I did believe that we were bringing good to other countries. I mean, hindsight's always 2020, but that's one reason I stayed in. And furthermore, for the people I served with, that's really the reason I extended as long as I did. Right. And for other reasons too, but those are the primary reasons. And then fast forward, freedom of speech, I do feel, whether you agree with it or not, like, it's therefore to like fight the idea of tyranny, like suppression of information is a step in the wrong direction. Right. You have China, we talking about the social credit system. Mm-hmm. We can save all of that for like some other time, but it's a very real thing that's happening now and if you want anything to say anything on it.
Just on the flag, it's sad. It's just sad that you see a lot of Americans, you can call them, right?
Right.
They're born here, that just don't appreciate it. Mm-hmm. They don't understand because they're so caught up in their rights and their privileges.
Virtue signaling.
And I'm like, dude, I wasn't even born in this country, and I just have so much gratitude, that as 3 years old, 2 years old, when I came over, the opportunities that I have, and the things that I've done in my life is just, I can never take it for granted. You know what I mean? Because we do travel back to Mexico, and I see it. Yeah. You just see it, and people make $50 a week, and they work full time. Mm-hmm. But for them, it's good money. It's a lower cost of living. But again, there's such a big difference, and I imagine myself where I could have been in life if I had stayed there, if I didn't come over. Right. You know what I mean? So obviously, I wouldn't have what I have. I wouldn't have the experiences either. So, like I said, it's sad that you have people here that are born here and have all the opportunity to do and to make something of themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like they throw it away, and not so much throw it away with what they're doing, but they throw it away with the disrespect towards the flag, right? Freedom, the people that actually like paid the ultimate sacrifice, coming from Memorial Day weekend. I don't think people really truly understand what that means, right? You know what I mean? I really don't. I really, really don't. Nowadays, younger generations, I feel like they've forgotten. Yeah. Where how this country was built, like you mentioned, and because if they truly understood that, they would know like how serious this is, of just being appreciative of where you live, have some pride, that there's kids that are without their fathers, wives without their husbands, because they paid that ultimate sacrifice for you,
and without their moms. Yeah.
For you to be out here. To just
shit on it,
have freedom of speech, and just to be able to do what you do. But like I said, they think it's just given. They think it's a given thing. Like they're born with these rights, and that's the difference. Is they don't know what this country's been through, right? And ignorance, right? Anybody can look this up. You can read up some history. You know what I mean? But I feel like people are just getting jammed with so much crap. With the stuff that they're watching. I don't know, whatever it is. Your Netflix. Whatever's on your phone and. Everybody's just everybody's just getting jammed. Yeah. With this new agenda.
This doctrine.
There is an agenda. You know what I mean? They're trying to push you to the point where you're forgetting about the freedom and the rights. And there's a difference. That's why I don't. Not trying to get into it, but we should keep our guns. And, stricter laws, whatever. Right. at the end of the day, criminals don't care about that stuff. I'm gonna stand on that. I'm not gonna change. Nothing's gonna change my mind.
Right.
And again,
Because if you look at history, like, and what's happened not only in this nation but other nations, that they're taking their weapons away. That's usually what happens is tyranny. People in general, they're consumed by power and they want to control things. And so, yeah, I see what you're saying. And yeah, I do agree with you that, there is a lot of people that have taken advantage and taken for granted this idea. It's one thing to kind of just throw away I don't want to say the rights you have, but essentially the rights you have. It's one thing to throw them away and not do anything, but then to go a step further and just talk shit about it and just like, we need to get rid of everything. I'm like, really? We got to get rid of everything? Yeah. Like you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? Yeah. You like figure out what's wrong, work on that and change it. And it sounds easier said than done, but it really boils down to that.
Right.
And you kind of hit the nail on the head. I wasn't aware of like your background and like you coming up in this country and what have you. And that was going to be one of my things I was going to say earlier was it's crazy that people that come here and they immigrate the right way. Right. They go through the process and they have more of an appreciation for it. And the people that don't come here, and I'm not knocking them, I understand wherever they're coming from is bad, and there's like a bottleneck in the system. There's wars where they're coming from, and there's a lot of nuanced things. But I've spoken with people that have immigrated the right way, and they get more upset about it. I'm not speaking about you, but they seem to be more up in arms about it because they had to come up the right way, and they appreciate it more. And then it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? There's the other side of it.
And it's not necessarily supporting like the current government now, or policies and whatnot. It's not saying that. It's saying of, like you said, the blood that has been shed before us for us to be here right now. You know what I mean? And live in this country is what I'm referring to. Right. Do I think the government's corrupt? Of course. Right. People. People. It's just people, right? So do I think things could be better? Of course, right? But I'm not too focused on that. I'm just focused on the fact that men and women have died, for us to be here and live this life here in this country. And people bash that. Yeah. I'm like, well, then leave. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not. Well, then, dude.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah, you know what I mean?
What's your argument? Like, what is your argument? I'm not disagreeing that things could be better. I'm not disagreeing that, there is corruption. But, man, like, have some respect for them. Like, for them, and they don't. And they've forgotten, And I can only imagine in the next 10 years. Yeah. I don't see it getting better, unfortunately.
I do really feel that the pendulum is about to swing the other way. And I've talked to like Sandy about this, and we have a lot of these conversations, but I do feel like we're entering into the age of truth. I mean, I could go a little bit further with that because I even like you throw in the Bible. I'm not like a deeply religious person, but I am still in the search of like, I've read the Bible before. I've read. I want to read the Quran. I want to read, and it's not in the sense of I'm just trying to find like the common thread. You know what I mean for myself. Yeah. Book of Enoch and a bunch of other like things, but if you do factor in the idea of the judgment day, right? It may come in the way that we don't expect it to come, whether like religious or not. Because if you look at, and like I feel like I have to highlight this. This is not pushed by any type of, Democrat versus Republican. This is just like me taking like looking at the way the state of our affairs in the world. Right. And based off the experiences in our history, and I'm not a history buff, I just try to do what I can to understand it. But with all that being said, you can see like this current administration, they've tried to push something out called the Ministry of Truth, where it starts off as checking like misinformation and what have you, and we can get into all that stuff. But you take a step like where is this going? You know what I mean? If people and they're actually trying to put policy into trying to fact check this the truth, whatever what they determine that is, then this is going somewhere else with it. And then so that means people will, if they go against these laws of whatever truth is decided,
Right.
then that's a certain state of judgment. You know, like we can go into the judicial system and judges, which is fucking weird.
Yeah.
You to have another human kind of judging you. I've always kind of, I understand the concept of it, but it's just always been weird to me.
Yeah.
But fast forward, you know, where this is kind of going, it does seem like we're going into this age of truth. So my point is, I feel like the pendulum's going to swing the other way, but it's going to be in this, like, when the pendulum swings, it always goes and overcorrects, and then it comes back before it balances.
Right.
And I do feel like that's where we're going with it, is like, as a society, as a nation, and as a world, it's like there's so much information. So somebody wants to be the judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
And so, yeah, more to come on that, man. It's just,
no, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of I guess, wrap it up with that, I am Christian. I do believe in God. I believe in Christ. I believe that we are sinful by nature, you know, and I think it shows. You know, the fact that someone can confess whether you believe in whatever you believe in, you can. I think everyone agrees that no one's perfect, and there's a reason for that, and it's called sin. And I think we're all born in that. You know, I believe that we're born with that. Just referring back to God, right? A creator, a start, a beginning, higher power, you know, whatever you want to call it. I believe in that because 100 times out of 100, when I look around me, every time I see order and design, there's a creator.
Right.
You know, I look at a vehicle, someone created it. Intelligence. You know what I mean? I think it's just very odd when people just don't believe in a creator living how they live. You know, their life has order.
Right.
You know, when you have a child, you teach them order. You know what I mean? So again, just more signs of intelligent mind behind order and design. This world has order and design written all over it. Anywhere you look, you know, the way things function. I mean, everybody knows about gravity and how oxygen works, and without it, you know, big catastrophes, right?
Right.
I believe it's all behind an intelligent mind. I truly believe that. And again, not here to force anybody to believe what I believe.
Right.
But just get your mind thinking. You know what I mean? Don't be ignorant. Because if they say that you have doubts in believing in God, it's like saying, well, do you believe 100% of science is true? Do you believe 100% of anything is true? No, we all have doubts in everything. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't believe in science. It's just that you're going to look into it.
Right.
So what I'm saying, if people doubt God, look into it. Just look into it. Be fair with the way you look at every other things. Be fair. Look into it. Like you say, you read the Bible. You're going to read the Quran. You know, do your research. You know what I mean? Don't be ignorant and say, well, I have one doubt about God. You know, look at all the bad things happening in the world. Would an honest God let that happen? So because of that, I won't even look into it. That's very unintellectual, I think, of someone to say, because they don't treat other things as such. If they find one doubt in a person, for instance, doesn't mean they're going to give up on that person. You know, you got to see if they really are bad people, or if, you know, no one's perfect. You know, he did one wrong thing, but you know, overall he's good. They don't do that with God. One bad thing to say about God, they throw him in the trash. You know, I think that's really weird.
Yeah, because it's convenient.
Yeah,
it's convenient.
Because they know that if it's true, they know that if they find out that it's true, that they got to change the way they live, because there is a judgment day. We will be judged, and they don't want that. People don't want to be judged.
Yeah,
you can't judge me. You know?
Oh yeah, I'm fucked. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, I haven't lived the best life to this point, and it's like you said, like being a sinner. But there's one also thing that I think about when I read the Bible is, and one thing that kind of stays lingering is, you know, if, God created us in His image, right? In my mind, I see that as an exact replica. You know, I'm not saying that we are God. Right. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that we have a lot of the same abilities as Him. Whether in the Bible talks about gift of foresight, talks about, you know, all these different you know, gifts, right? With that, one of them is being a creator. not saying the creator,
Right.
but I am saying a creator. You just
Yeah.
talked about that. And we choose to create in our own ways.
Mm-hmm.
And if those things are true,
Mm-hmm.
then the world would look exactly the way it is right now.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If we all have the ability to create,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be evil or whether good, I'm not saying, because I do feel that God, in my current understanding of it, is omnipresent.
Right.
Omnipresent.
Right.
Is everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
or it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just supreme.
Mm-hmm.
You know, energy, and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Energy,
Right.
or because I feel like it would. I don't feel like we give, even Christians in general, don't give enough credit in the sense of what it is to be God.
Oh,
like
yeah. Our minds can't grasp.
yeah,
like,
exactly.
you know.
But if we do try to encapsulate that, it's way bigger than that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like it would. So if there's
I think our brains would melt.
yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, just me trying to understand it and seeing all the way things work, organisms on a microscopic level,
Right.
energies, it,
Mm-hmm.
and being a father myself,
Mm-hmm.
I also understand that you want to. So take out the concept of God, right, and then we are His children, right, based off that concept.
Right.
Then there would be times not in the sense of the individual,
Mm-hmm.
but for the greater. If you can't, I don't want to say it, like, I don't think, and this is easy for me to say,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think you can be, when you make decisions as a God of this complete understanding, you can't always intervene in each individual's personal
Mm-hmm. Decisions.
tribulations, and because you have to factor in the entirety of the species of humans or
Right.
kids. You have to make decisions based off of the ebb and flow for the greater good, or the
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so therefore there will be incidences that we have to learn from our mistakes.
Right.
So this being would not intervene,
Right.
so we learn our lesson. Because as a father, it's hard for me to stand back and allow my kids to mess up.
Yeah.
You know, I want to control everything they do.
Mm-hmm.
I try to give them the information to guide them on the right path.
Yeah.
I even told them, I'm trying to give you the cliff notes
Right.
to life.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I have to step back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't love them,
Right.
because I want to be there with them every fucking second of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But with it not being a perfect world,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding what I can control, what I cannot control,
Right.
I have to step back and allow certain things to play out with the understanding, and let them know that I'm always here for them.
Right.
Even though they may think that it's like forgotten them.
Yeah.
You know, that's what a lot of people say, is forgotten us. And again, this is based off my limited experiences. I can't speak to other people's traumas and what they personalize on God.
Right.
But for a very hypothetical view of it, that's how I feel. And I can understand how a person a being of that intelligence would stay back and
Right.
allow certain tragedies and catastrophes to play out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, like I said, I don't disagree with that. I actually believe that God is sovereign above all, and we're not meant to understand why things happen, when they happen, how they happen.
Mm-hmm.
You
But
know,
we want to, because
Yeah.
we're trying to personalize or rationalize why,
Right.
because we think of ourselves like, why did this happen to me?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, unless you have faith, I would say, I mean, just personally in God, good luck. Because you will never know why things happened. You're going to think that's why then people start looking to other things, statues, and they start to idolize statues.
Mm-hmm.
They start to idolize other stuff, you know what I mean? And give credit to them, give
Right.
credit to the stars, and that the stars talk to you, but the stars and the universe is creation also. That, it is.
Right.
So people start thinking that it comes from something that they like, some sort of stuff that doesn't
Is external?
it's basically like there's no relationship there. And like you said, I believe we are made in the image of God. I have relationships. We have a relationship. So what does that mean about my creator? He's very intentional about relationships, and he wants a relationship with us. We don't give it to him. We don't. Like, as a whole, we don't.
Right.
And like I said, it's very important to just acknowledge that, because like you said, we're given the ability to be fathers ourselves. And I can only imagine, I'm not a father yet, right? But I just think ahead, and I'm thinking I would love for my children to just come to me for everything and let me know, get me involved. Don't keep me from whatever secrets you have. I want the best for you. I can only imagine about my heavenly Father. He's not a heavenly machine, or engineer.
Right.
We're just like machines or whatever down here. No, we're spiritual beings with personality. We relationships. We can love. We can procreate. Again, Heavenly Father, he wants a relationship with us, but because of sin, we've been separated. Right. Because of our sinful natures. Why does he let us sin? He gave us free wills. We have the free will to go do whatever it is that we want, whether it's evil or good. If there was no free will, does he really love us? Because now he's forcing us to love him. That's not real love.
Yeah. That's one thing I tell my kids. And it's not with the notion of religion in mind. Honestly, one of the reasons I stayed away from religion for such a long time is because, and even now, like as I said here, it's the concept of the millions of deaths that happen in the name of religion. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And it's this holier than thou people. I highlight people.
Right.
Human nature that they want to be in power, so they give them like a license to do whatever they want in the name of God. And that's why and I think a lot of people have issues. I don't want to speak for everyone. I'll speak for myself. That it took me, because I got brought up with religion. I brought, my mom used to have Bible studies at the house, and that kind of made it a little sour for me, because I was made to. You're talking about PT, you're making me do this. Like, I don't want to do this shit. You know what I mean? And I get this slap taste in my mouth if I talk like that. But fast forward, my own, things that kind of went through my life and stuff like that, and like just the limited amount of history that I learned and my limited amount of experience to understand that history. And the lack of perspective that I had, it was real easy for me to kind of just cast it away. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, that's it. How can anything that's based off of good cause that much destruction and chaos? But again, what I feel is that is people, the human nature. And you could say, well, if God created this, then that's evil. But I do feel, in my current understanding, is that we all have the capacity to be evil and good. You know what I mean? But that's that balance of life, right? And I do feel that you cannot really truly appreciate the good until you can really appreciate evil, and vice versa. And I'm not saying that you welcome it, but you can't see the background. You can't see you without a background. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's more of an acknowledgement of evil.
Right.
You don't appreciate the good until you acknowledge evil, not within others, but within yourself.
Right.
I think that's where it starts. And society now doesn't look at it like that. Society, for the most part, it says the evil people are the ones that are in jail right now, the ones that are murderers and, rapists, and those are the evil people, and they never look at themselves. Right. Never. And that's the problem. That's the real problem, is that you can only have judgment coming from basically a perfect being, in my opinion, that being God, Christ. But when people literally believe that they are, because they're overall good in their lives, that they're not bad people, that's like the center of why things won't get corrected in society. Like, for instance, like I mentioned, people point at the people that are in prison right now for the crimes that they've done.
Right.
And that's according to our justice system here,
right,
on earth. Who do you think established that?
Yeah,
Like,
and then
judgment.
I just heard a recent. I just heard a recent number about. I think it was like 12% of people in prison are innocent,
Oh yeah.
and maybe that number is bigger. But I mean, just think about that. You know, it's just because again, people, the DA or what have you,
Right.
trying to just win. They
Yeah.
don't ever want to lose, and you know, putting that self, you know, like they want to put out like they're this good of it, but they don't do it for the right reasons.
Right.
And there's a lot of innocent people in there, but yeah, I understand what you're saying because it's real easy to kind of just cast judgment, you know, and just
Right.
like, yeah.
And it's the easiest thing to do. And like I said, I think that's why society as a whole is just not in a good place, you know,
Right.
because the first thing you said, or one of the first things you said was, I'm not overall good. You'd be surprised how many people will never say that in their lives because they don't believe that.
Yeah.
They think that they're good, not because that they've lived a perfect life, but because they're overall good. You know, have they lied? Yes. Have they cheated? Yes.
Yeah.
Have they stolen something? Yes.
Yeah.
Shoot. I mean, I can go down the list, right?
Yeah. I mean, me too.
And it's again, they won't acknowledge those things as bad things because they think they do more good than bad.
So they're just kind of one offsets the other.
Right. And it doesn't work like that when it comes from judgment from something higher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and again, like, I think that's very bad because that's where they will never truly understand why evil even exists. You know what I mean? Because they think they're not evil. You know, when you lie to somebody, you're literally making a choice to be deceitful. That came from your heart. Like, I'm gonna lie to this person so you can get what you want. That's
crazy because when you say lie, and I think of things I lied about in my past, like I feel it right here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's crazy. But yeah, it is.
something so small.
Yeah, it's something so small.
So small. But I mean, like I said, I could have people lie all the time, and it's only for personal gain. You know, to either not get in trouble, to either get something that you really want. You're gonna lie yourself through it. I mean, that's evil. That's evil. But people think it's just so small. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm good.
It's like with anything else, it's a slippery slope. It's like diet. Like when
Yeah.
you choose to eat, what you choose, information you choose to take in. And I could have went off on a tangent earlier, and I just kind of let the conversation flow. But you know, I used to kind of I would see like my kids, they would look at Disney, right?
Right.
And I noticed, and maybe it was like, maybe I'm just being paranoid, but like when they were kids, they were kind of being indoctrinated.
Right.
And I mean, people would just see it like, it's just Disney, whatever.
Right.
But at each phase of their life, like, you know, from, I don't know, 0 to 6, there was programming.
Right.
And that's exactly what you call it, right? It's programming, right?
Yeah,
It's television
It's funny how you say
programming.
that,
Yeah, it's just, you don't ever think about it until you connect the two. And then from, I don't know, 7 to 12, there's like a different set of programming, and then so forth and so on. But I would also see because we're highly impressionable beings.
Right.
Whether you realize that or not, I don't think a lot of people are aware of that.
Yeah.
So if you take a child and then you kind of just, you know, even now, like throw an iPad in front of them, like, which is now like the new babysitter.
Right.
They're being programmed by whatever it is they're watching, whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to see it that way or not, that's what's happening.
Right. Right.
So having said that, like I would notice that in my kids, like in their attitude and the way they would talk and the way like they would kind of play out, like they got sassy, you know, and it wasn't really about control, but it was just more an observation.
Right.
Like you see them acting the way that the kids were and talking to parents, like, and the parents were kind of just showing this, like, we're all friends here. It's cool, you know, like, you know, and with that, that's just a small window. And now you factor in like YouTube and all these other type of influencers.
Right.
It's crazy, but it's so overt, it's covert.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's so transparent, but people don't see it as that because they're desensitized.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
And I see it within myself, like certain things I watch, so that's why I'm a little bit more.
I call it discernment. Like, have discernment,
Right.
in whatever it is that you're watching. You know, conversations that you have. able to discern what the other person is saying. Just take it. What does it? Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt.
Basically, you watch a movie, just go in there knowing that it's a movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know how many people get so caught up into anime and all this stuff. And
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they really, really think like that some of that stuff could possibly be real, that, you can do certain things, or like, I don't know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Just,
but I do feel that there is some truth in that, though. Like,
with
like in the sense, I mean, I don't know what specifically you're talking about, what their capabilities they could do.
I think like, I don't know, like I feel that like either some sort of heroism mentalities, just something beyond your capabilities of, whether it's physically or just, I'm not gonna say mentally, but I would say, all the superhero stuff, like superhero stuff, like, and I
like
guess that,
flying around and stuff, or
like either flying around, or I'm gonna jump I don't know how many feet in the air type of deal, or I can run at the speed of light type. You know what I mean?
You ever seen Red Bull?
Nah.
Well, Red Bull is just like because I mountain bike, so they're super athletes, and they do like parkour stuff and stuff like that's like superhero ish. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, and
people do
constantly pushing the capabilities of what we're capable of, what we think we're capable of, and that's the one thing I was trying to allude to earlier. Like, I do feel that we're capable of so much more, but we've just been kind of, whether it's conditioned intentionally or not, to understand what we're capable. And the stuff I'm reading about the Native Americans and shit, that's superhero like to me.
I think I have a good example of what I was referring to.
Okay.
When I growing up, even till now, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball Z.
Okay. I never got into that, but go ahead.
I mean, Goku, all that stuff. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I've heard of it, but
I mean, dude, I saw these guys growing up, and I'm like, I want to get buff. I'm trying to get built like them. These guys are, going Super Saiyan, where their energy levels, power levels go like threefold, whatever, tenfold. Like they transform into like stronger humans. I really believe that people really believe like that they can, achieve that kind of like transformation of like I said, energy,
right?
To be able to do stupid stuff like they were doing in that cartoon,
right?
You know what I'm saying? I got influenced. I was like, shoot, I'm starting to do push-ups, because I was watching them. I was like, I'm gonna start doing push-ups, shoot. And then you play as a kid. Oh yeah, I'm Super Saiyan right now. Like, what are you? Whatever.
Yeah.
And like I said, just be able to discern now as a grown up, or be able to tell my kids like, hey, it's a good show, but just know that it's cartoon,
right?
It's fiction. Just
like there's a possible limit.
Yeah, I mean, just be aware. Whatever you watch,
right.
You know what I mean? Because even with the movies, how realistic they are now, all this Marvel stuff, be realistic. They're just movies.
I feel like those are kind of like windows into like leaking technologies.
I think so too. They kind of show you glimpses.
Yeah,
but they're not going to really tell you.
It's like to desensitize or to condition, not condition, like to kind of like slowly release the idea of technology,
right?
But at the very least, inspire people the ideas to build like you take a Star Trek, they have the little flip things and they're talking to them. That's like a cell phone nowadays, But I do feel that there is evidence. Like I talked about Red Bull, and there is evidence of that, like monks, that meditate and they're able to stay within this freezing weather.
Yeah.
Wim Hof, he's like ice water,
right.
And they don't try to say that they're a god. They just feel like they're just showing
capabilities,
the capabilities of what we're capable of as a human species, because we're highly adaptable.
Right.
I believe that we were, whether you want to say created or made that way, to sustain the inevitable atmospheric and conditions that the history of this earth has shown to happen, ice ages and things like that. We have to be, we wouldn't be able to survive without it.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that we tried to, we're going to end it like off on a good note, but it continued down this, and I feel like we can keep going on it. But with that, there's a lot of like a lot more stuff here, and
Right.
like I appreciate you coming on
No, yeah,
again
for
and
sure.
discussing your ideas. What I really appreciate you is like discussing, like one of the things I want to highlight about this podcast is, we don't always have to agree on everything, but it's the understanding that we have the freedom to discuss these ideas and belief systems. And I'm not saying I agree with you or disagree with you. It's just a general forum of it. And to create the discussion around it and to kind of discuss new ideas and not like shut each other down because of my belief system versus yours, or, you know.
Exactly.
So like I said, man, I appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions or concerns or whatever, I just ask in the comments that you try to keep an open mind and you talk about these ideas, not to win an argument or prove anything, but to try to understand. And at the end of the day, discern that you don't have to agree, allow other people, and then like, but it's to kind of keep the conversation going and, you know, challenge your own ideas and beliefs, not to change the way you don't have to do anything you don't want to, but I think this is more important today than it has been in a while, because so many people are just being shut down for ideas. Christians, I've heard of, there's a person that, oh God, he's pretty famous. He spoke about Marvel. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
He's a huge, like, I don't want to say huge Christian, but he's very forthcoming with his, faith-wise, you know, Christian.
Right.
And he catches shit from, from Hollywood and stuff like that, you know, because they try to silence, you know, if it's not within their narrative or agenda, which is a whole different conversation.
Right.
But I appreciate you being like confident and willing to discuss different ideas. And I'm pretty sure we can continue this maybe in another podcast.
Oh, yeah. More than happy to.
Yeah, I'm more aware of your time. You're a busy person. I appreciate you coming on. And yeah, man, appreciate what you've done. You know.
Sure.
Fast forward, we're in this house and we're having this podcast, this conversation. Yeah, man, and need to have you back for a barbecue or something.
For sure, man. Thank you for having me. And like I said, I'm more than happy to come again.
Yeah, and where can people find you one more time?
I said, just they can look me up on Facebook. Just type in my name, Jose Chavarria.
Yeah.
I do have an Instagram. It's JC_realtor11 at Gmail. Not at Gmail. JC_realtor11. That's what I'm on Instagram. So
okay.
Yeah, like I said, or they can reach out to you, and then you can just
definitely reach out to me, and he's definitely like I recommend him for all your real estate needs within the greater San Antonio area. I don't know if you venture outside of that, but he's good people. As you see here, good conversation, and you tell it like it is, and that's what we need more of today.
No, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sir.